Hi guys, I'm Eric, one half of Bill and Eric Photography. If you're new to the channel, basically what we do here is we talk about anything and everything photo lifestyle related. We do gear reviews, techniques, tips, editing, photo trips, locations. We do all kinds of things and general photo lifestyle, photo culture. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, give it a like, it definitely helps out. And one of the cameras that we love to talk about is the M50. It's the one I'm using to shoot this video right here. And we really think that pound for pound, it's a budget camera. Pound for pound, this might be one of the best cameras out there. We've talked a lot about it on this channel here. In ideal conditions, nice lighting conditions, even on a tripod, good conditions, it really stands up against some of the best cameras out there. And I'll link a couple of the videos at the end where we compare this to cameras like the 5D Mark IV and the R5 and the Nikon series like the Z5, Z6, Z7. What I want to do here though is I want to show you how it holds up in some of the more extreme conditions. So basically, if you're going to go out and buy a really big expensive camera, you want it because you want to be able to shoot in extreme conditions at the edges, really long telephoto, really fast action, really low light. And what we're going to focus on here is the low light. I'm going to compare ISO shots from ISO 100 all the way up to a really high ISO like 25,800, and we're going to compare them side by side in the computer, the Canon R5 versus the Canon M50, and really see how the M50 holds up. So let's jump into the computer and check it out. So I took some images here of one of my old-timey cameras. I just wanted to get everything like the darks and the lights all into the same image here. So on the left-hand side we have the R5 and on the right we have the M50. And if we zoom in, you know, these are shot at ISO 100. So they both look really, really nice. The cropping is going to be a little bit different because the R5 is a much higher megapixel count. But you can see the M50 on the right looks really nice. Really beautiful image out of both of these cameras. Let's jump up to ISO 400 and see how they compare there. So these both shots are both at ISO 400. Again, the R5 on the left, the M50 on the right. And again, they both look really, really nice. If we look at some of the out of focus areas, and no real discernible noise in any of these shadows down here. Maybe a little bit, but nothing that's going to really affect your image at all. So really comparable results at ISO 400. Let's jump up to 1600 with the R5 on the left and the M50 on the right. You can see you're getting very nice images out of both. Zoom all the way in. Yeah, a little bit of noise, which, you know, at ISO 1600 is going to be expected, but the noisy areas look really nice in both images. Got this dark area back here on the M50, a little bit more noise than the R5, but really nothing that's going to make a difference in your picture. Jumping up to ISO 3200, and this is where you would expect to maybe start seeing a little bit of a difference. Zooming all the way in, the R5 on the left, the M50 on the right, and you can see in some of these metallic areas here on the M50, getting a little bit noisy on both images, but maybe just a little bit more on the M50. But again, we're comparing the M50, a $500 camera, to the R5, a nearly $4,000 camera. And I think the M50 holds up really well in comparison. Again, a little bit more noisy on the M50 on the right, but nothing that's going to really affect your image. All right, now we're going to jump up to ISO 6400. Now 6400 on my R5 is usually about my stopping point. I'm pretty comfortable taking shots at 6400 if I need to. Anything beyond that, and I know basically I'm just kind of testing my luck. 6400 though, I usually get pretty good images out of that on the R5. Let's zoom in and compare it to the M50. And you can kind of see here, the R5 still looks pretty nice. You can look at the detail in this center area here on the lens and compare it to the M50 over here. It's getting a little grainy on the M50 at 6400. Looking in the background here, you can see it's not bad. The M50 is not bad. The R5 is definitely nicer, but the M50 still holds its own. It's a little grainy, but the colors are still good. The contrast is still good at this ISO. So again, we're comparing it to the R5, but the M50 at 6400, I'm still fairly comfortable using it in a pinch. Now we're at ISO 12,800. Again, the R5 on the left, the M50 on the right. And to me, the R5 at 12-800 looks closer to the M50 at 6400. So I want to say maybe this is a full stop better at the high ISOs than the M50. Let's actually compare those side by side. Yeah, just out of curiosity, I've got the R5 at 12-800 on the left and the M50 at 6400 on the right. And I'd say they're pretty comparable as far as the noise and the grain. Pretty comparable. So in this instance, you know, the R5 is basically a full ISO stop better than the M50. But going back here to compare at 12-800 on both, the M50 is starting to fall apart. You're losing some of the detail, you're losing some of the color. You can see where it's kind of got these discolored patches in the background in the out of focus areas here. The M50 is starting to lose quality at ISO 12,800. Still in a pinch. If you really had to use it and get it done, not bad, but not great. R5 on the other hand, you know, this is usable if you need to use it at 12-800. And now we get to 25,600, which is the highest native ISO on both of these. You can push it more in either direction. You can push it to a higher ISO like 51,000, but you're basically just manipulating the camera at that point. You're just going to be basically, you know, underexposing and raising the exposure in the computer. So 25,600 is the highest native on both of these. Just looking at without even zooming in, you can tell the M50 on the right really doesn't hold up. You've got that splotchy color in the background there, a lot of loss of contrast and detail. But let's just zoom in and take a look deeper in here. R5 is okay at 25,000. Not great, but you know, again, it's a really expensive top of the line camera. It should do fairly well at this ISO. M50 on the right, on the other hand, really is kind of just, it looks like this image is behind a screen. It got a lot of discoloration in the background here, a lot of noise, and you're losing a lot of the detail in the image. So what does that mean? It means, you know, the M50 does a pretty good job. Up to about ISO 6400, you're going to still get decent enough quality to use it if you need to. If you need to push the ISO on the M50 up to about 6400. Anything above that, it starts to break down, but I would be comfortable using the M50. And combined with a lens like this, I have the 22mm f2 lens. Using it wide open at f2 and shooting at an ISO 6400, you can really get some nice low light, you know, indoor handheld photography type stuff using the M50 at ISO 6400. I wouldn't really go beyond that. And again, that's why we talk about, like, under ideal situations, the M50 is a really great camera. But if you're going to be pushing it to an extreme, if you're going to be pushing it to really low light and you need that high ISO, a camera like for Canon the R5, for Nikon the Z7, something like that might be more what you need rather than the M50. But still, I gotta say, pretty good. We're continually impressed with the performance of the M50. So if you're looking into a camera like that, if you're looking into an M50 or even the M50 Mark II, the M50 Mark II is basically the same camera as the M50 with a couple of little technology upgrades. So if you're looking to get into it and you want to save a couple of bucks, pick up the M50. I'm going to put links to the M50 Mark II in the description below. You can check those out on Amazon along with the R5 if you're interested in that. It's a great high ISO performance on the R5. But if you're looking at the M50 and you're wondering about what the high ISO performance is, I wouldn't be worried about it. If you can push it to 6400, it's going to do a good job for you. If you have to go beyond that, maybe you can clean it up in editing a little bit. We don't like to really do that too much, but if you need to, you can. So definitely recommend the M50 for ISOs up to 6400. So I hope you found that helpful. We love to compare stuff like this because we know we're always looking for things online, looking for other people to do comparisons between lenses and different camera sensors and things like that. So we find these kinds of things to be helpful, and they're usually answering questions that we have, because all of this stuff, all this gear that we use, all the stuff that we review is all stuff that we actually practically use in everyday shooting. So hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, put them down below. We love to hear from you. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.